listen, like, you're clearly f***ed up in the head to do that to me. Like, there's clearly, like, some sort of inside issues going on.
My friendships have really shifted over the years. And when you're younger, no one really prepares you for that or what that might feel like.
What do you think of me and Ali's friendship?
I'm quite new
You've really
to
put
it.
her on the spot with that one. Hello and welcome to the Social Battery. Today we've got our extra special guest, Michelle ELMAN.
Oh, thanks for
I
having me.
forgot to pre-warn you that we whoop and cheer and
No,
stuff.
I love the whoops. I love the cheers.
Yes,
Appreciated
Michelle.
greatly.
Michelle is in the house.
She is. And Michelle is a UK-based life coach, author and public speaker. She's known as the Queen of Boundaries for her work on body image, setting personal boundaries and self-worth. She's written several best-selling books such as Am I Ugly? The Joy of Being Selfish, How to Say No, The Selfish Romantic, and more recently, Bad Friend, Why Friendship Breakups Hurt and How to Heal, which explores friendship breakups and how to process them. I feel like I just meshed all your book titles into one
It
long
sounds
sentence.
great. Yeah.
I
It's a spiel.
was so ready to do it in a very professional, organised way, and then I realised I put no punctuation in my notes, and so they all merged in. But essentially, you are an author. Your area of expertise is relationships, both romantic and platonic.
Yeah.
And today we were going to focus a little bit on friendships because something I love about your work is this idea that we should be focusing just as much on platonic relationships as we do romantic. But in society, we don't tend to. And lots more emphasis is placed on romantic relationships. And also because our podcast came about because of our friendship, and we get people writing in all the time with friendship dilemmas, friendship questions. So I thought, who better than to invite on than yourself?
Well, I'm a fan of you both, and I'm very excited for this chat. And I love that I'm chatting to two friends about it as well.
I'm loving how I'm chatting to two professionals.
And I should
Should
say
I
at
be
this.
moving this? Sorry, I just realised that
Nah,
this
keep
was
it
also.
on
Oh no, you're all right.
There
We're
we go.
very casual. We have a tea party
Okay.
today, so welcome to the friendship tea party. And I should and I should say at this point that Michelle is also a TV life coach, and she's appeared on ITV's This Morning, BBC shows, and has a very large social media network where she shares all of her work as well as commentary on reality TV shows such as Maths, which I love your takes, by the way. I always agree with them. So welcome. We're so happy to have you here, and thank you for
I'm
coming
so
down.
honoured. Thank you so much for that intro. I feel like having to live up to it now.
But your intro is you.
Yeah, that
you.
is true.
Got to take it in.
Yeah.
That right there
Gotta
was
own
you.
it.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But I also think I've had 10 years in this industry. So it's like, it sounds like a lot because most people in this industry are a lot newer than me. Whereas like, I've had time to build up a resume.
Well, you don't need to be humble because we're big fans of your work. And we have on set today your book, Bad Friend, as well, which is the most recent book that I've purchased and started reading. And something that I love about your writing is I find it really hard to read. I lose my focus, I lose my concentration. But you recently told me as well that you write with the neurodivergent brain in mind, which would be great for our viewers because we have a strong cohort of people with autism and ADHD that follow us. Is there anything you want to add to that? How did you come up with that idea? Because I've never met an author that writes with people with sort of ADHD and dyslexia in mind.
Well, it's because I am dyslexic. So I was a big reader growing up. And then I got to about year 6. So 10 years old, 11 years old. And I got told by a teacher, you're reading too young for your age. Bearing in mind, I read in my spare time, under the covers all the time. And I just stopped reading overnight and was like, I felt shamed for feeling stupid for anytime I tried to read a book that was appropriate for my age, I just felt stupid. And so it made me stop reading. And it was only until my A-level psychology textbook, I realized I started reading it for fun. So that's what really got me into nonfiction. And I started only reading nonfiction. And it wasn't until I was like 20 years old that I started reading fiction again. And what I realized was my brain just works differently. And being dyslexic, there were just some small things you can do as authors to make books easier to write. So I guess I did it in a selfish way of I never want anyone to read my book and feel like how I did when I was younger, of feeling stupid. And I think especially in nonfiction, I always think if I have to read a sentence twice to understand the sentence, the writing isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And actually, the whole point of a nonfiction book is to be able to walk away from the book and go, okay, this, that's what I'm going to do with my life. If I'm ending the book and I don't know what I'm going to do next, then you failed as an author. And so that's why I write in a very solution focused way. But also things like, I told you earlier that I had to like fight for the fact that I got a new literary agent this year and she was like, your book has 50 chapters. Like, who has a 50 chapter book? And I was like, check all my other books. My other books have 50 chapters too.
Yeah.
And I was like, a dyslexic brain needs a page break. So like that was another thing I fought for. When a chapter ends, it cannot go into the same page. It has to be a separate page.
Yeah.
I would prefer for it to have a blank page between the next chapter.
Wow.
And when I was trying to explain that to my editor, I was like, the difference it has for your brain of like, I explain it as a brain break of like your brain can like breathe a sigh of relief before it starts something else. But it also is why all my chapter titles are very specifically about what the entire chapter will be about.
Yeah.
And how I explain to people who don't have a funny brain as much as I do is like, as a dyslexic, you have to draw the box first and then fill in the box. But if you just start talking and you don't tell me what the box is
Without the context.
then I find it really hard to ground myself in the
Yeah.
conversation.
It's funny you say that because all my life I have struggled with reading so much. I've never been able to read, but I've only read fiction. And I read a page and I've completely forgot what I've read.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because there is no breaks. Like I'm just constantly
And it hasn't
reading.
framed it at the start. I think sometimes your brain needs to be primed for what you're about to be reading.
Yeah, and
so you
also
can
I've got to like
sense
keep
of it.
concentrated because my brain, I could be reading the things, but then in my head, my brain just like is in another world. But like I'm reading like the words, but like my brain's just not.
But that's why,
Focus.
like, it sounds really subtle and small. But for example, the question at the front of the chapter is also on the top of every single one of my pages.
Yeah.
So that if you're like, what are we talking about again? Which
Yeah.
I do when I'm reading.
I need that for my brain.
Yeah, but you
we
don't
do when we're
100%.
talking. We'll be speaking and we're like, oh, what did we just say again? What topic are we on? About?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like every page it's saying, at the top of the page it says, why are female friendships full of competition? So then
So you
every time you
know
get
it,
lost,
yeah.
but also the chapter title isn't like some abstract like butterflies and fairy tales, and you're like, what is this chapter going to be about? The chapter is literally telling you on the tin what it's about. And I don't care if my chapter is only going to be 800 words if that's all I have to say on that question. But then you can look at the contents page and also go, what is the question I want to ask? Earlier you were talking about the fact that when you get into a romantic relationship it tends to be hard on friendships.
Yeah.
There's literally a chapter that says like, why does my friend disappear when they get into romantic relationships? Like there is nothing confusing about my writing because it's literally what
So,
it says on the tin.
Do you prefer fiction or non-fiction again?
It took me a long time to figure out fiction for my brain.
It's so hard, fiction.
Yes.
Is that the storytelling stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because the only book I've ever read was Mr. and Mrs. Twit from Roald Dahl. I've never read, or Diary of the Wimpy Kid with the pictures, because it's so physically hard to read a book and a story.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time into adulthood to read fiction. The first author that I fell in love with fiction, like, it was probably 7 years since I read a fiction book, was Holly Bourne. And I couldn't for the life of me understand why that book was so easy on my brain compared to like
Try it.
all the other fiction books. And she does, I mean, honestly, the way she talks about it is genius. She does like eye maths of like, there's something about, she goes into the science of your eyeball and how much you can absorb, but she is very intentional in making her books easy to read. And stereotypically as an author, the word easy to read is often used as an insult. And what she says and what I echo is the fact that easy to read is hard to write. And actually it's a compliment, because why are we trying to put this like gatekeeping to make it hard to read for some people, when literally all the things you need to do is like make sure your chapters start on different pages, things like that, which like the thing you're fighting for when you're talking to an editor, for example, is they're like, okay, but that's more pages, that costs more money. And I was like, right. And if it means more people are reading the book,
Yeah.
then that's what you also want. More people will be buying the book. So that's also money. So it's trying to explain it in that way, but also it just starts from the get-go of like the first meeting I ever take. I'm like, I'm dyslexic. Accessibility is important to me. I want the audiobook to be released the same day as the published copy. It's small things that people just don't think about, but I think about because my brain works that way.
Yeah. I love that. I've never met an author who has even thought about writing for a neurodiverse audience. I think it's really
I didn't even know
impressive.
like that was a thing. So thank you, Michelle.
Thanks. I mean, like, I wonder if I would if I didn't have a funny brain and all the brain surgeries and I'm dyspraxic and dyslexic and all the things. So I just think they're small changes, but I think they're becoming more aware of it now.
Amazing. And we do have lots of questions for you,
Yeah.
specifically about relationships and friendships. Lily's burning to ask something.
So, obviously, you like a friendship coach. Sorry.
She's a life coach.
But
Yeah,
like,
sorry,
I talk about friendship. Yes.
Yeah, a life coach, and you've got a book about friendships and that. This is going to sound really like an annoying question, but what do you think of me and Ali's friendship?
I'm quite new
You've really
to
put
it.
her on the spot with that one.
I'm quite new to it. This is the first time I've met you, but
Yeah.
I just love that you guys are so different. That like it seems like you both embrace the differences in each other.
Yeah.
I think we just accept each other and just roll with
Yeah.
it. And we balance each other out. It's a bit
Yeah.
yin and yang. And I think people who are observing us like the yin and yang.
Yeah.
But I don't think what people do realise from the outside as well is that there's a lot of similarities.
Well,
I'm just an
people don't
expert
see-
masker.
Yeah.
but see, this is what I was wondering. The first thing I noticed is like today when I walked in, you said you're like chaos behind the scenes and you're like very and I'm very similar to you. Is Lily your inside?
She's my inside. She's the inside of my brain.
Yeah, she's literally like how you actually are, but like Lily's just that on the outside.
Yeah.
I just walked in, I was like, sorry guys, I was late.
I think it's
The
why
train
like
was
I really
delayed.
enjoy your company too, because I'm like, God, this is me. I just hide it. Like
I just walked in, I was like, guys, the train was delayed, and I think like I've got really bad heartburn, so I had to get some.
but you know,
gas.
you are me when I am not working. Like
Yeah.
when I'm working, I'm more like you, where I'm just like, and then when I'm not, it's like people will come into my flat and be like, oh, Michelle, when she's offline, is just like chaos. But I think that's where like I saw the similarity of like you saying like you know how to like pull it together when you're like being professional, when you have to be a psychologist.
Yeah.
But like actually
you know what? Can
this
I
is
tell-
really who we all are.
Can I tell
Yeah,
a funny
it's so
story?
true.
Actually, we've actually never spoke about this, but this was probably I
Oh,
think
God,
I laughed about it for months. So Ali, I was in London anyway for an event, but Ali had a talking place in like King's Cross, and then she was
I was doing a Pride panel for Pride Wise.
yeah. So she was like, "Oh well, if you want, while you're waiting till your event, why don't you just come and like have a drink and like say hello, and then you can leave when you've got to leave for your event." So I was like, "Okay." We get into that. It's proper sick. It's like it had all like Samsung phones everywhere. It was in the Apple store or something.
I think it was in the Samsung store.
It was in the Samsung
on
store.
Coal Drops Yard. So it's like a big studio.
It was
quite-
like full of
it was
business
quite a big
people,
event.
dead corporate. And Ollie's waiting to go on stage. It's like a full on stage. And then I'm like, oh, I've got to leave for my event soon. Then I see my phone's on like 1% and my phone's constantly on 1%. And Ollie's getting ready to go on stage. And then because we were in like the store and I was like, oh, I'll just, and then because all these phones, it was in the Samsung store, all these phones like had
She
chargers
unplugged one
already. So
to
I was like,
charge
oh,
her
I'll
phone.
just unplug one of the phones and charge it on mine.
Alarms went.
It went
Oh
like
my
it's like a
God.
full-on corporate event. Like there's someone on stage giving a speech, it's a full-on audience, and everyone turns around, and I'm there with the unplugged phone and my phone, and it's like, and then Ali looked at me. I was like, sorry.
Just see Lily slowly plugging the phone back in and then backing out of the event.
I was like, I'm so sorry. Then someone had to like come and sort it out, and then I literally ran out of the house. I'm sorry, bye.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. And like honestly, it was so bad.
That's so
I'm so, yeah.
But that's friendship. These are the stories that
But-
pepper our friendship.
Yeah,
and that's,
exactly.
That's what we love for us.
I feel like what a lot of people don't know about us as well is that we actually think the same, but like I'll just say something and you articulate it in a better way. Do you know what I mean? As well, like I'm like,
Yeah.
like I think this. Like
Can I
I'll
ask
just
how
like
the
I think
age
this.
difference works?
Yeah.
So Lily's 21 and I'm 39, turning 40. So I would say it's like a sisterly dynamic.
Yeah.
Like
what as
I'm
well
big
is-
sister.
Not motherly.
Yeah.
Like-
Sometimes motherly, but I try to step away from
Big
that.
sister.
Yeah.
It's like because actually Ali's like the same age as my sister, and I feel like as well why I actually became friends with Ali, is because I have a lot of like like I only have a few friends, but like a lot of my family's older and I'm quite close with them. So like my sister's like Ali's age, my brother's like round about Ali's age.
So
Like
you're used to it.
yeah,
It's
so I'm kind of
familiar.
used to it anyway.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So like when I speak to Ali, it's just like speaking to my sister.
Oh, I love that.
So moving away from Lily and I specifically.
Yeah. Sorry, I just went on a tangent. Oh, sorry.
So I have a question for you. And what I've tried to do is pull a few things together from DMs that I've had from people. What are friendship red flags? And how do you know if a friendship that you have is a healthy friendship or a good relationship?
I think before red flags, you actually just have to look at the values first. And I think we don't define friendship in a very constructed way in the way that we do with a romantic relationship. So I think everyone could agree if you said like your partner forgot your birthday, that would be like a bad thing to do. Whereas with friendship, it's like, oh, well, some friends forget your birthday. Some friends call you every day. Some friends you don't see for a year. It's a very blurry definition. And that's why you have to at least define it for yourself. And I do that via values. So if someone matches your values, then that relationship tends to be more compatible. And that could be like at a younger age, I would say my values were like excitement, spontaneity,
I bet they
fun.
change as you get older.
Yeah, and now I'm looking more for connection, intimacy. I want emotional intelligence, things like that. And so looking for different values, let's say when I was in the point in my life when I was looking for spontaneity and excitement and fun, the way we would hang out is probably going to clubs, festivals, parties. House parties used to be my favorite. But then that also meant the people didn't need to have, let's say someone broke my loyalty, for example, it wouldn't have hit me so hard. Whereas now, if you break my loyalty, because loyalty is a lot higher up, because emotional intelligence, connection, like it will impact me a lot greater. So therefore, the red flags have to shift around that.
Yeah.
But like the red flag for one person is not going to be the same as the red flag for another because your values aren't the same.
What it's funny you say that because I had a conversation with my friend actually because a lot of my friends work in the weekday and then on the weekend we're free. And then most of the time when we go out, it's to go out clubbing. But then that's the only time we're bonding. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big thing as well because like we spoke about it and we were like, actually, the only time we hang out is like when we have a drink. Like we need to actually do something sober. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I remember that time in my life. I was 20 and we realised that we had gone out every night, like for 5 days in a row. It was like the summer holidays and we'd gone
Yeah.
out and we were like, we started making this plan being like sober activities. It lasted 2 days.
Like
But like,
saying,
we
like,
tried.
actually, like me and Chantal was having a conversation, like we only hang out when we've had a drink, and I was like, we need to do some like, but like it's not like on purpose, like it's just came that way with her working, so we're like, right, maybe we should like do a gym class in the weekday. Do you know what I mean?
That's actually what we decided to do for our sober activity. But I mean, this is also how your life changes. Whereas now, like, I can go 6-7 months without having a drink. Like,
Yeah.
none of my friendships revolve around alcohol. If they did, they probably wouldn't
Like you
last.
don't want to be going clubbing every Saturday, do you?
Also, you don't want a friend who's going to accuse you of being boring because you don't want to have a drink. Like,
Yeah.
at 32 years old, like, I'm just not in that headspace. I'm quite a homebody now. Whereas I was definitely a party girl back then. Like,
365 patty girl.
I mean, honestly, like, I don't regret it. Like, I had a
Yeah.
great time, but I think your friendships
Well, then
change.
after it, well, like when you stopped going out,
Yeah.
did you realise a shift? Like,
So I
with
was a
your
party
friends?
girl with party friends,
Yeah.
and then you slowly become like, especially when I started getting a career, I couldn't go to work hungover. You start growing apart from those people, and sometimes it's mutual, and sometimes people are growing in the same direction as you.
Yeah.
But that's why I think fundamentally it's very hard to imagine me at 21 and me at 31 with the exact same friends, because I wasn't the same person. And I do think if you pursue personal development in any way, if you go to therapy or any of those things, the chance that you have more friendship breakups is higher, because if you change, the circle around you tends to change as well.
Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting topic, the topic of friendship breakups, because something I've noticed with a few more years under my belt than Lily, for example, is that my friendships have really shifted over the years. And when you're younger, no one really prepares you for that or what that
Yeah.
might feel like. So you have this kind of school, college era where friendships are decided for you. They're who is in your immediate proximity, and it's easy to socialize. You can go out with those people. Obviously, some people struggle to make friends and it's different for everybody, but generally speaking, most people at school will have people that they associate with at school. Excuse me. And then you go through this kind of other phase where you get a bit older, you go to university, you might move away, you might relocate, friendships start to drift away. Some of your friendships stay, some of them don't. When you go through that phase, like you said, lots of people do through the party phase, and then sometimes those friendships don't follow you through to the next stage, which is when you get a committed relationship, you become more serious with your work, maybe you're drinking less, your activities change. And I remember going through a period where I felt really sad, and I had like a long period of almost like bereavement for a group of friends that I grew up with, because I managed this terribly, by the way, and I'm very willing to hold my hands up and say that. I had a very close group of friends at school. We were all friends because we were kind of misfits, if you like, from different forms, but we found each other and we bonded over our shared interest in music and going to live concerts and things like that. But there was one girl in the group, and I'll say girl because we were kids back then, right? Who was quite dominant, and I would say a bit of a bully sometimes. And I was quite close to her. And I never asserted myself. And I listened to how she spoke to other people. I let her speak to how she wanted to me. She would dictate which boys we hung out with, who could have a boyfriend, what we could wear. Like, it was quite dominant. And one day, after years of not saying anything, I snapped. And I told her, but I didn't tell her in a nice, assertive way. I wasn't very pleasant about it. I told her exactly what I thought in a very unfiltered 19-year-old way.
Yeah, it's
I
an
love
explosion.
that.
Yeah, it was an explosion. And as these things go, the whole group distanced themselves from me because I had targeted the more dominant one in the group.
No, but when it builds up, you've just got to let it out.
I mean,
Well, I think there are coping mechanisms to not let it build up.
obviously, I wouldn't do that now.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would weigh up whether that friendship was for me or not and create distance or not create distance. I would weigh up whether it was worth a conversation, have boundaries, or decide how to communicate. And I didn't manage it well. But what happened then was, because I shed this group of friends from school, although I still am friends with some people from school, I remember really grieving in my kind of, I mean, this must have happened when I was about 18, 19. It's 20 odd years ago. But I remember really grieving the loss of this group of friends for a while and feeling very lonely. But then what fell away actually left space for me to build friendships with people that I shared values with and that were kind and spoke to each other nicely and didn't compete to be the most popular girl in the group and all that stuff.
When you say grieving over a friendship, like especially like with your book and that, I just think it's so not spoken about friendship breakups. Like, because if you have a breakup with a guy, you watch like a breakup movie, a romantic movie, you cry. Like, there's just like, I just don't think it's like not out there at all.
But you do grieve,
much
like
grieve,
you
and
do.
I think it's
so
important to label
much.
it as grief and not sadness, because I think some people confuse it as sadness. The thing with grief is it comes with accompanied apathy, so where you tend to not care about other things that are going on in your life. It's quite all-consuming.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to label it as grief because it's a loss. And so when we talk about grief being associated with death, it's not just death, it's any loss. There's this stupid saying on social media of like, well, if everyone is saying the same thing, then you're the common denominator. And it's like, okay, but if everyone's saying the same thing, you were the person who attracted all that same type of energy. So of course they all agree. And I actually think it's much more so not about wrong and right or bad friend and good friend. It's much more so compatibility.
Yes.
And actually, the fact that all your friends at one point are reflecting that you're not compatible with all of them, the likelihood is yes, you are the common denominator, but not in a shaming way, in a way that you're the person who's changed.
Hmm.
Like I talk about in the book, it's like sign a contract, and they signed on to this contract with this people pleaser who said yes to everything, who never had any needs, never had any boundaries, and then overnight I was being called the queen of boundaries on the internet, and I was saying no to everything. I was vocalizing my needs. I had strong opinions. It's not the contract they signed on for. And does that make them a bad person? No. But does it make me a bad person to have more friendship breakups under my belt than I
Hmm.
would like? No, neither. Like, it's just the fact that we never got taught. And actually, one of the things that's so normalized in romantic relationships that we don't do in friendships is look backwards about what we ever got taught about friendship.
Yeah.
And like, if someone has parents who are divorced, they'll go, oh, no wonder it has an impact on your romantic relationships.
Oh
But
yeah, because to be fair, my parents are divorced, and then like I say to my friends, I'm like, if you get a boyfriend, you know it's never gonna last anyway.
well, no.
So like you're just wasting your time, really. So just like don't get in a relationship and just stay single and have fun.
My godmother's favorite saying is, your biology is not your biography. So like it doesn't determine your future, the fact that your parents got divorced. But do we ever look back and go, how many best friends did your mum have growing up? Or
Yeah.
So
did
many.
your dad prioritize friendship in your upbringing? Like, those kind of things will impact how you view friendship growing up. So like for
True.
me, my mum and dad have one go-to best friend. They don't have big friendship circles. They don't have friendship groups. I don't have friendship groups. I
Mm.
have like, again, one or two best friends, and then that's about it. Where was that taught? Where was that learned? And then you look at the schoolyard mentality of like friendship should be natural, friendship should be easy. But the reality is, how you made friends in primary school is it was the person sitting next to you in class.
I know, actually.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you've got to work with what you got, really.
It's purely dictated by proximity. And I think
Mm.
that's what happens as you move through your life is that, first of all, you have to figure out who you are, because when
Yeah.
you're that young, you don't know anyway. And your values shift over time, which then makes sense then that you will shed some friends and gain some friends as time moves on. And of course, where I am at now as well is this period of time where my friends are getting married, they have babies, their life is not completely different from mine, but quite different from mine. So, of course, in that process of people having children, there's some friends that I've lost contact with. And I'm not, I know, especially online, there's a lot of discourse between childless women
Yeah.
and women who decided to become mothers. And it seems that they're pitted against each other in that my way is best and all
Yeah.
this. And there's this women without children are painted as these people who don't want to be around women with children, and we don't want to support our friends. I'm the total opposite. If my friend has a baby, I want to hear all the little details about your baby. It's not boring to me. I want to hear if it got its first tooth, or if it rolled over, or if it face planted when it first started to learn to lift its head up.
Yeah.
All of that is exciting to me if I love you as a friend and I
Yeah.
want to be part of that. But I think naturally, as time goes on, you know, life is also busy and people have commitments. And something for me that I found difficult in my 20s, then moving out of that teenage phase where I had that fallout, was in my 20s I had a new group of friends, went to university, fab, met some incredible people that were much more aligned with me, long-lasting friendships. And but something I again felt a feeling of grief was that for me, I put so much emphasis and importance and love and energy into my friendships, but of course not everybody's able to mirror that.
Yeah.
How I find a good friend, because I only have like I'd say about 4 friends, and I've had them since like I've met them in high school and I've just kind of sticked with them my whole time, and then I get the odd person pop in, you and that.
Popping in, hello.
No, like you popped into the circle and that, but I keep it very small. But the reason why, like, I know I have good friends is because we all have respect for each other, and I feel like that's the core thing. Like, if I respect you, you respect me with
Yeah.
everything.
I think that's something that I'm feeling as well in, I guess, what I would now describe a third phase of life, is where I went through a period of maybe being a bit needy with my friends in my like early to mid 20s, where I was like, friends are so important, I must give them everything, and then feeling a bit like, hey, I'm maybe not having the energy match.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like I'm in a third phase of just acceptance and mutual respect, where I like, Lily and I have talked about this before, I like to see friendships as, with me anyway, of course I have my closer friends, but I have other friends more on the periphery maybe. I like to have a friendship where people could come and go without pressure, because I acknowledge and understand that life is so busy. People are having babies, getting married, people are having bereavements. You know, as you've been on the earth a bit longer, people are going through more stuff. So I have more of a, I hope, compassionate approach to my friendships. But I also think I've become maybe a lazier friend, because I'm doing more kind of, okay, I can't see these people as often as maybe I would have done 5,
Yeah.
6 years ago, because I don't have the
mental,
capacity
yeah.
anymore.
One of the main things you're talking about is time, like
Yeah.
the lack of time. And also, I think with I think with worse work boundaries, where we have our hands on, like literally with emails in our hands, our phones in our hands all the time, the amount of hours in the day where our work consumes it, we don't leave an office and we leave work anymore. And so what that's taking time away from is social activities. Then the pandemic made it worse.
Yeah.
So the research has shown we have not gone back to the level of social activities we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's also the privatization of leisure time. So previously, if you wanted to relax in any way, you would have to see people. Now you can just sit in front of the TV, be entirely entertained, and not have to leave your house, not have to interact with a
so
single
lovely.
human.
Sometimes when
So
I'm
that
like
was a
on
joke.
when I'm
But all
watching
of that
Gossip
together,
Girl and my friend calls, I'm like, oh, but I'm in the middle of the episode,
no, I'm exactly the same as you. I mean, like,
and I've
it's
literally just sat down.
it's why half my content is reality TV. So
Yeah.
as a result, how many hours we're spending with our with our friends is less and less. It's not just you, it's everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I think this conversation of boundaries, which I definitely was a big contributor to, has led to people being, I mean, it's ironic because my book title is The Joy of Being Selfish, but has led people being a little bit too selfish, where
Yeah.
they don't realize the cost of friendship is inconvenience at times.
Yeah.
And one of the examples I use in the book is a friend called while I was in the middle of, so when I write books, I write 2,000 words a day. I don't do anything until those 2,000 words are hit. And she was calling at 10 o'clock in the morning. I obviously hadn't hit it, but I was I was having a really good writing day and I was on a roll. And I just looked at my phone and I was just going to miss it. And then I just went, you know what? I'll pick it up and go like, are you okay? I'm in the middle of work. I'll call you back later. But just as I did that, I could see she was crying on the phone. And I was like, and it turns out she'd just gone through a breakup and it was like 3 years and all of that. And I had a choice in that moment to be like, stick to my really firm, rigid boundary that I follow every single day, or be a good friend.
Yeah.
And yes, I probably could have written 10,000 words quite easily that day because it was a very good writing day. And in that moment, I was like, look, this is going to inconvenience me. This is not great for my career. And also, this human matters to me. And I need to prioritize this person. And ultimately, it just comes down, at the end of the day, if you want people to show up, you have to show up
Yes.
as well. And there will be moments where you are going to have to like skip that event or choose to not do something that would positively benefit your life in order to benefit someone else's life. And I think that's another component that we're missing. But I think the reason why there's this friction between childless women and women who have children is the fact that this idea that the women without children have to overcompensate for the time and energy that the other women don't have. And I think it's also a lot of assumptions are coming to play of like, I'm a woman without any children. I love children. I'm a very maternal person. I don't mind you bringing your child along. Frankly, you don't even need to ask me.
Yeah.
But over time, if I'm always the one traveling to you, even if it's not the fact, I get it. Sometimes you can't change logistics that like you have a child, it's harder for you to leave the house. But you know what can change is your acknowledgement, your appreciation.
Yeah.
You can
that's a good
actually just
point.
say like, thank you so much. I know you always travel to me. This is just the phase I'm in. And someone acknowledging that is huge
Yeah.
and not just taking it for granted.
That's really true. And I hadn't really thought about that, because certainly with my friends with children, I will always travel to them. I will never expect to be hosted. If I'm going to theirs for lunch, I will bring the lunch. If we're
Do
meeting,
you play with the kids?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If we're meeting outside the house, I'll say I'm coming to you, because I know that I can, and because I'm happy to do that. And I know I've been around a lot of women with children, so I know how difficult it is, but I'm happy to do that. But I never really thought about, I guess, just acknowledging that.
Yeah.
But then I'm very lucky because my friends do. But I definitely can see how these kind of conflicts between childless women and women with children can arise if it's not
Michelle,
acknowledged.
A lot of unchangeable variables. Like, you can't create more time for the mother. Like, you also can't, like, it's easier to leave the house when you don't have a child. Things like that. What you can change is, like, knowing the appreciation piece and, like, the gratitude piece. And actually, also, when it comes time to, like, swap it, you actually being there for another person in another way. And I think this is where the reason why female friendship isn't prioritized is because we live in a patriarchy which prioritizes marriage and motherhood. But it means that events like weddings are seen as more important than birthdays.
Yeah.
But to the single person who doesn't have a partner, who might not ever want to get married, their 30th birthday is more important to them than your hen party.
Yeah,
And
that is so true.
Yeah.
and I think that's where the friction really starts, is before even the kids get in the picture.
Celebrating milestones regardless of whether they're attached to marriage and how a marital relationship will develop. And this is something that I talk about with my friends as well quite a lot, because Lily, the friend that you love of mine, who's very accomplished, she's a consultant, she's a doctor, she's done so
She's
much.
sick.
And something that I try to remember all the time is you're getting flowers through every work achievement, every graduation. If you get through some difficult exams, I'm going to celebrate that with you, because I think those achievements can get really lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a partner in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a moment in my life where, like, the biggest work accomplishment at the time was I had done a TED talk and I came home to an empty house and didn't have a single text that day from my friends being like, well done on your TED
And
talk.
did they know?
They knew. Everyone knew.
What
but
the
it's because,
fuck?
like, everyone
But
was...
sometimes it just gets lost in
And
translation.
it does. And, like, same as you, like, I try to not have high expectations anymore, because I appreciate, one of my favorite sentences in the book is like, adult friendship is hard because we are all tired.
Yes. Oh my God.
But there was a part of me of like, yeah, and if I was in a relationship, I wouldn't be coming home to an empty house. And also, I wish that my TED Talk was as celebrated as your engagement. I wish my TED Talk was as celebrated as, like, your wedding or your baby's christening or whatever it is. And just because, like, everyone has their big thing in their own life, and I think that's my main takeaway, is like, just go through your friend list and actually go through each person's life and goes, what's the big thing in their life right now? Make sure I celebrate that in some way. If it's them starting a business, that needs to be just as important as a hen party or a marriage.
Yeah.
And I think we need to almost decenter, largely men, but decenter romantic relationships to create more time for platonic. And I think by accident with this book, I've caused some, like, stir online around the fact that I've compared the two, because people have kept saying it's, like, not the same. And I was like, I'm not saying it's the same. I'm saying that we should lower the prioritization of romantic relationships to create more space for platonic. Just because it's not the same doesn't mean it can't be more similar.
Yeah.
Michelle, am I a bad person?
Go for it.
So, like, when, like, a girl, like, if I'm meeting a girl, I'm like, yeah, nice to meet you, and I think, oh, they're so sick. As soon as they tell me, like, oh, I have a boyfriend, I'm in love with him, I'm like, oh, God, like, move.
You know, the whole Vogue article right now of, like, is having a boyfriend embarrassing?
Yeah, like, but, because I've always had it, like, when I meet someone and they start yapping, like, it's mainly like with girls, like when they just like, I love my boyfriend and all this.
I think it's okay for you to not want male-centered friendships, or like when someone is a very male-centered person, I think it's okay
when they
to
yap
not
about
want...
the boy, like yap about the boyfriend. They're like, oh, I'm in love with him. I do everything with him. Like, we do this.
I just love the contrast in how you're describing the same thing, where Michelle is like, it's okay not to want male-centered friendships, and Lily's like, I just hate it when they yap about men.
No, like, it's like,
I'm like, yeah, it's
like,
okay.
I love people when they're out
The
with a
reframe.
boyfriend. I was actually speaking of this with our editor Jack, and like, okay, we say this, like with he has like a life and then he has his boyfriend, but I can't stand when girls.
Their whole life is their
Their
romantic
whole
relationship.
life is the boyfriend, and then I'm like, listen, we can't be friends. Like, I can't even sit in this conversation. Do you know what I mean?
So there are 3 chapters in the book around this, because I think it is one of the biggest teething pains, especially in your 20s. Your friend gets into a romantic relationship, they disappear from your life.
Yeah.
Then they break up, they expect you to be there. And then they do this, especially if they do this on and off again thing.
Or
You're
it's
like,
so cheeky, like if
but
you're getting
you
enough
comfort them
relationship.
through 3 or 4 breakups with the same person, and then
And
you
you have
just
to
get
listen
a
to all
point.
the drama that, oh, I fancy him. Oh, we're in a relationship, we've done this. Oh, we broke up. Like, what the fuck is our relationship like? I'm like your therapist.
But this is the
This
thing.
is why I just don't gel with people like that.
Or you can be friends with them and you can just set boundaries. So this is what I did with the first person in my life who had like 6, 7 breakups with the same guy. By the 4th breakup, I just went, I can't talk to you about your love life anymore. I was like, I love you.
I've done that as
I-
well.
and I
I've
think
had to
it's-
say, look, you're free to do what you want. I'm your friend. I'll always be here. But regarding this specific
I'm
issue,
not a relationship
we're on loop
therapist.
with the same conversation, and I'd like to not be part of it anymore.
And
And
it's like
also-
you're always saying the same thing. Well, I've told you to do this. That's my opinion. And then you're just repeating the same thing. Well, I've
Well,
said this.
That's exactly how I would say it. So I would say, like, you already know my opinion. I'm not sure why you keep asking for my opinion when you already know it.
Mhm.
I feel at this point I'm complicit in this dynamic that I don't think is great for you, and I want to stay friends with you. I love you. I care about you. I just can't be the person
I'm
you
going
go
to be
to.
copy and pasting this.
But
If
like,
this ever happens,
I think you're allowed to say, like, you're allowed to set a few boundaries. You're allowed to say, I'm not the person to keep coming to when you keep going through the breakups. What ended up happening with that friendship specifically was I remember one day I called her, I was like, where are you? She was like, you don't want to know. And I was like, okay. And like, I was like, anyway, I was going here. Do you want to come join? But like, it also requires you not respecting that boundary too. When she's like, you can guess when she's like, you don't want to know, she's probably in his bed. Like, and I was like, okay. And I didn't
Yeah.
ask. And I was like, great, well, this is what I was calling you for, and this is where I'm going. But also, you can set boundaries around not seeing their partner. Just because they're their partner doesn't mean
You have to chill with the boyfriend.
or that they get to bring them along without asking you. Like,
so rude.
and I do think it's quite rude. And I do think if you bring someone along, whether it's a friend or a partner, like, you should ask them, like, hey, do you mind if I bring this person along?
100%.
And I also think you can say, like, hey, do you mind if it's just the two of us? I really wanted to catch up with you. I remember the time that a friend did it where she just like, my door buzzer just went one day. It was like all my school friends meeting up, 5 of us. And then suddenly my door buzzer went and I was like, who's that? And she was like, oh, that's my boyfriend. And I was like, right? And I looked
Both
at
of
the
our
whole
faces.
group. But I looked at the whole group and I was just like, oh, I didn't know he was coming. And like the whole group just looked at me being like, no one knew he was coming. And we'd all been talking about our love life. Obviously,
Yeah.
we didn't want to continue that conversation now that he was in the room.
What a
But
vibe killer.
But this is the thing. There are different conversations you would have with a partner present who you don't know as well. And I think you're completely entitled and within your right to set boundaries around how much time you want to spend around that person. Will it have a knock-on effect on your friendship? Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Likelihood
Because
is
some
yes.
people could listen and be like, do you know what? You're completely correct. But some people can just be so obsessed with this
And
boy.
and it's difficult as well because different contexts, different situations. So I've had friendship groups where, you know, the partner has become part of the friendship group and we love them and that's great and they're accepted. It's the tricky situation where there's conflict in that intimate relationship, and then that how that shapes the dynamic when you bring them into a social situation is really challenging sometimes.
I know, because
Well-
some people love it when they're like, oh, now we're better boyfriend's dead funny, because when we're on about the girly gossip, the boyfriend gives like, oh, well, from the
Yeah.
male perspective. But like, I don't know, but like,
But I
me
think
and my
that-
girls are like girly gossip girls. Like,
I think it's important to say, though, that boundaries isn't necessarily shutting out the new partner.
Yeah.
It's actually just asking for permission of, like, can I bring them along? And if you really get on, there are some of my friends' partners who I love, I adore, same as you, of like, they become your friends. Wonderful. But just ask. Like,
Yeah.
if it's going to be an automatic yes, then what's the harm in asking? And also, if it's going to be a no, it doesn't need to be an issue. I do think, though, 2 of the main causes of my worst 2 friendship breakups is the fact that I didn't like their partner. And I do give this
oh
as
yeah,
a...
what do you do about that? Like, how do you say it?
Well, so with the first one, it's because they had broken up and I had brought up an argument that they'd had where he called her too stupid to get into medical school. And so I said, yeah. And so I had said, we were 19 years old and I had said...
What a dickhead, like, honestly.
Well, I
like,
just said she was better off. A week later, they get back together. Then,
Oh.
I mean, now they're engaged. So, like,
Oh.
but it's been very hard
Congratulations.
to, like, it's very hard to backtrack what you said when they were broken up.
Agreed.
And so even though I never said anything extra, we were always kept separate. Like if she would have like birthday parties and one of us would get invited or one would get invited earlier. And I never had an issue, but I also never got to know him more than that one comment. So I never got a chance to even like, anyway, her solution was to keep us separate. And as they moved in together, and it was just slowly distancing until like I was fully out of her life, when at one point I was her like go-to best friend. And then with the other one, I mean, I lived with her for like years, and he used to be in our apartment 3-4 nights a week. And then he used to be quite a bad drunk. And so every time he would get drunk, he would say these things to her, which I didn't find okay. But by this point, I was like 25, and I had learned if you say something bad about someone's boyfriend, you're the one that gets the cut. So
Yeah.
I said nothing. And I was like, I was supportive. I was like, well, if you feel like that's appropriate, like, I've like, as long as you're happy, all of those kind of comments. And then he was rude to me when he was drunk. And I was like, look, you can tolerate whatever you want. I'm not tolerating this. And all I said is I want an apology. And that apparently was threatening enough to their relationship that she ghosted me.
I also think I have an issue as well. I don't know what this. So when I start to speak to guys in that, sometimes I get too obsessed, and then like I think, oh my god, when are they texting me back? And I get too obsessed. And my last relationship, I ended up getting a relationship, and then I just completely forgot about my friends. I'm scared if I was ever to get in a relationship again, I'd do the same thing, but I know I wouldn't. But I have this thing that when I start speaking to someone, I start getting like way too obsessed.
I think there is a thing when it comes to the honeymoon phase of like you want to spend all hours of the day with each person.
But it's weird.
I was single for 8 years, and I experienced being the single friend that got dropped and picked up. And as a result, when I got into my romantic relationship, I had it as a high priority in my mind of like, in the first 3 months especially, there were times I wanted to cancel on my friends. What matters is your behavior. It doesn't matter that in my head I was like, oh, I actually just really want to stay in with my boyfriend. It matters that I didn't.
Yeah.
It matters that I still went with my friends.
You
They
showed up.
didn't need to know, like they didn't need to know that in my head I secretly wanted to be with my boyfriend, but it was about what your behavior was, not about
Yeah.
what's internal inside your mind. Because ultimately, the only reason I want to like cling on to my relationships in that way is because I'd had a past of romantic relationships not working out for very long.
Yeah.
And so you have that tendency to like squeeze it for as much as it's worth for as long as it lasts, but actually reassuring yourself that like if this is a romantic relationship that's going to last, there is no rush. We have plenty of time to spend time with each other. And also, you've been that single friend who's been dropped. Now don't be that person to your friends.
Yeah.
So these are all really great points. We've got a couple of minutes left of the episode. So while we've got you here, I'd love to steal your thoughts on some dilemmas
Can I
that...
just fill up my Prosecco? Sorry.
Yeah, you can.
Sorry. I was just waiting for a pause. Are you filling yours up? I think I just terrified Michelle.
I've got two.
No, to be honest, it looks quite addictive.
But remember the noises into the microphone. We get complaints about Lily's fidgeting all the time.
Does it look weird?
Yes.
Did you think it looks normal?
I don't know.
Okay, right.
Okay.
It's just to make
Focus
Michelle
for-
look, she was like,
Lily, focus for 5 more minutes.
sorry.
Okay, so quick fire. One of these dilemmas is quite long, but I'm going to try and summarise it as best I can. So, hi Lily and Ali and Michelle.
Hi.
In 2020, I experienced a major multiple friend breakup. 3 of my best friends started spreading rumours about my then boyfriend, who's now my fiancé, that he was abusing me and stealing from them. This was after a period of time of isolating him from our friendship group, overall treating him like crap. All the stories, of course, were bollocks and, to be honest, kind of racist, as he is of Caribbean descent. I tried to confront them several times about it. They gaslit me. Basically, they're saying the social circle has really changed. And now they feel quite isolated. They're going through an incredibly difficult time. This writer's father was diagnosed with cancer in 2021. 3 months ago, they lost their dad to his fight to cancer, and they're now grieving, and it's all fresh. They've been invited to a friend's wedding who is one of the few people they still have a close relationship with in that group. She loves her dearly, but attending the hen party and the wedding is going to be a great source of anxiety for both her and her partner. The 3 best friends who broke their heart will be in attendance. it's just making them feel full of dread. Apologies to the person who wrote in. I'm summarising as best as I can, and I'm sorry if I've misrepresented your dilemma. But essentially, what they're asking is now, what should they and their partner do?
I think this is the thing. When you have a friendship breakup and you have to be in the same room with that person, sometimes it does mean opting out of the event, especially if it's going to cause a fight at the event, which you definitely don't want to happen,
Mhm.
like especially if it's a wedding, or it's going to cause so much upset internally
Yeah.
and have so
Yeah.
much stress leading up to the event. I think you definitely need new people in your life. And when you
Mhm.
have friendship breakups, it creates space, but you also do need to fill that space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it probably was the right decision to that create that space for, even though it wasn't your choice to end those friendships, I
Yeah.
actually think it did happen for the best reason.
Everything happens for a reason.
And I was
And
thinking
and
as
imagine who
well,
you're gonna
for
meet as
for
well.
this friend who's getting married, if it was me, I would make them like a little gift box with little bits for their wedding day.
I would invite them for dinner separately. I
Exactly.
would do something
Celebrate
to
them
celebrate
separately.
them, but just not attend the
Yeah.
actual event. And I think I've done this with people's birthdays before. But I think ultimately, if someone is making up rumors, or you just have to ask yourself, is that the kind of friend you want in your life?
Yeah.
And is that the values and the traits you want of people who, if you're moving into this relationship and you're engaged to each other,
Mhm.
you want people who support your relationship. And I think if people are going to be dealing with it in a very immature way, especially with rumors and spreading malicious gossip, then you have to actually look at what you want different in your new friendships
Yeah.
and how you're going to act differently to attract that.
I agree. I definitely think there's something about filling. I love what you said about filling the gap that
Yeah.
those friendships that have moved away from, you
That's
can put
so
new friendships
important.
in. Sometimes that's not, that space is an opportunity then. Now you have the gift of time to bring in new people that love and
Yeah.
value your relationship. You can celebrate your friend who's getting married without going to the actual wedding itself.
And like looks wise, like just think like you don't need to. Well, like you probably would like to go to that wedding, but you're going to be like the big person, and then you're not
Yeah.
going to argue.
But also
and
the
you-
weeks of anxiety on the lead up, it's
Yeah, that's
just not
what I'm
worth it.
thinking more
It's not
about.
worth it. And I will say to this person, as I shared at the beginning, that I had a friendship fallout when I was 19, 20. Also stayed friends with some people in the group. I tried to attend an event that we were all at and I got punched. So
Fuck off!
I got punched.
What the fuck?
Oh my God.
Why haven't you told me this? And who's the person that punched you? 'Cause I'll punch him back.
I mean, we all have. This is 20 odd years ago
Yeah.
now.
Sick.
We were kids, really. In
Well,
essence,
same. I'm the still at the same age
we were
now.
teenagers, but yeah, I got punched. Some other girls in the group, discreetly via dance moves on a dance floor. But I was getting some
Have you ever
very
been
hard.
swirled before?
Probably.
I have.
I was getting some very hard elbows and some very strong digs. And after that event, which I also didn't want to go to, I went for my friend that I had stayed
Yeah.
friends with. I lost contact with the friends as well that I was friendly with. And actually, years later, we met up and now we have a bit of a friendship, which is nice.
Well,
After,
so
after
this
she
is what
punched you?
It was.
After she punched you?
Oh, no, not them. But the mutual friend that I tried to show up for.
Oh.
But I think that's the same with me, of like our friendship breakup, our group friendship breakups were quite similar ages. I can now be civil in a room with them, but for 3 years afterwards, because I lived with someone who was still in that friendship group, I asked her as my housemate to never. I was like, they cannot come in our apartment. For 3 years, I was just like, I just can't. Like, it's too soon. After 3 years, I was like, look, they can come over. I would just prefer not to be there. And then eventually I could be in the room with them. Sometimes it takes time. And sometimes they are just people you never want to see again. And that's okay. And like, keep your space. But I also think when you mentioned the loss, the bereavement of her father, grief groups are a great way to get support. And
Is that a
especially,
thing?
Yeah,
yeah.
Grief groups.
I've been to one.
And I
Yeah.
also think, like, in those spaces, especially if you're meeting someone with a partner, for example, getting couples friends who can support you through it. You both have this like tie that connects you, where you both understand each other's phase in life right now. Like, I think that can be a really powerful thing. But going to book events, going to a run club, like all of these things, like it doesn't have to be connected to the grief, but it is one option of like, if you want support in that area specifically, like reach out to grief groups where other people will be going through similar things.
Yeah, and to the person writing in, just to say, condolences. This is incredibly difficult, and what a shame that you're having to focus on tricky friendship dynamics at a time when you're probably just about staying afloat, managing your grief and everything else as well. So
It's a lot, that.
that's a lot. One last dilemma. This one's written a bit shorter, so I'll just read it exactly as they wrote it rather than trying to summarise, because I don't think I did a very good job of that, but let's try. Hi, Ali and Lily. I have a dilemma I could use your help with. So I've been low-key in love with this guy for 10 years. He used to be obsessed with me. I panicked and friend-zoned him. Lily, hard relate. And ever since we've had this... Have we lost Lily? And ever
No,
since...
I'm listening, but I'm just looking up at the light. Well, I'm like trying to take it in, like, do you know what I mean? I'm really thinking.
Ever since we've had this chaotic, will they, won't they, slow burn flirting every time we see each other. Earlier this year, he fell out with my best friend, and she wouldn't tell me why. Last week, she finally admitted he's making nasty comments about me behind my back, including calling me disgusting and saying he'd never date someone who looks like me. Honestly, I'm not even hurt about him, brackets men, ew. But here's the plot twist. My other friend knew the whole time, hyping me up to flirt while knowing exactly what he said, even repeating it to our group when I wasn't around. So everybody knew except me. Now I feel like a mug. I don't trust her at all. Do I confront her, or do I just slowly cut her off and accept that this 10-year slow burn was really just me starring in a rom-com nobody else was watching?
I thought first when
my
you was
God, my heart.
explaining it,
I
I thought it was going to be a slow burn, Love Rosie type of movie.
But
No.
I
Devastating.
honestly,
How
I, like-
awful.
What a
Yeah.
dickhead. What,
I
like,
also think the feeling of like everyone knowing and you not knowing is like a betrayal
feel like a
that really.
twat.
Women in general are indirect communicators, and that is a stereotype, but we've been trained to be that way, where like we get penalized in society if we are direct communicators, and I'm a very direct communicator, so I would say you should be confronting her. I don't think it's okay that she has done that, and I do think she doesn't deserve to know, but you deserve for her to
Yeah.
know that you know, and that's not acceptable. And I would go and
Agreed.
just say word for word what you know, ask her the questions you want to ask, get the closure around it, and don't let that person in your life. Like, I think that is so important you need to keep your inner circle sacred. And I just think if someone's doing that, there's very little road back for that. Like, I don't know your relationship personally.
If that was your friend, if that ever happened to me, I would first of all look, would I ever have done that to them? And what I would have done.
Never.
And I would never, ever do that under any circumstance. So what you need to do is absolutely cut them off.
Yeah. And what an awful loss for this person writing in, because they've lost the fantasy of the will they, won't they with this guy that they're attracted to. And that probably felt exciting and fun, and gossip about it with your friends.
I know, it's like two heartbreaks in
But
one.
a devastating loss that your friends are laughing about the fact that he's actually talking about you disgracefully behind your back. That's
oh my God, it's
really sad.
It's so sickening.
These are
But
not
also
your
the fact
people.
that she said
actually
she
angering
wouldn't
me.
tell her for ages why she like.
She's
would that
asking
not
the,
be the first?
She's asking
First
the question.
of all, your friend's probably jealous of you or something, or like these are like. Well, sorry, I'm just like stating that. I don't know. I should
This is the
say
thing
that.
as well. Like, I think it's one of those situations where we could probably do an entire podcast speculating on the motivations of the guy and the
doesn't
female
matter.
friends, and realistically, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
That you only have the behaviour they've confronted with you with,
How they treated
and
you.
how they treated you, and that's a no from me.
I honestly like with
Goodbye.
that shit. I'd be like doing a story time on TikTok, like really out in there.
I
But
wouldn't
honestly-
recommend.
I
wouldn't
That's when
recommend.
you put your phone in another room. Don't create any content
No, but
around
So
it.
that's when you get
tempting.
revenge. Revenge. Justice.
You
It's
know what?
so
The justice is the
tempting.
space from them.
No,
Like,
the
truly.
Yeah, yeah.
But
justice is
if
like
back to
calling
the
them
actual
out.
question, the actual question is, do you confront them or slowly distance? Someone who's
Cut them
slowly,
off completely. Like, cut them off. Make them have the heartbreak over you.
but slowly distancing would be almost taking on that shame and like, because there are, when you slowly distance from someone, especially when it's not two ways,
Yeah.
like there are those moments where that person asks you out and you're slowly dodging it. The awkwardness almost sits on you, whereas I think you have to accept this person is in the wrong, this is not on you.
Yeah.
And that's why I do think it should be communicated rather than you having these awkward interactions for 6 months while she gets the message. And there's a phase in the book where she's like, oh, why isn't she getting the message? It's because you've not sent it. Like,
Yeah.
so you do need to send a message of like, this is not okay,
You're
this is how you
tapped in the
behave,
head
and
and
this is
clearly
why
have
our
some
friendship is
issues.
over. Like, just
Yeah.
like, because I think this slowly distancing thing gives her the illusion that her behavior is okay, and I wouldn't.
Do you know, that's such a good point, because I think I am guilty of the slowly distancing thing.
But then you're
and
the one who
phasing
feels
people
awkward.
out. But then you carry it, and you also carry the responsibility of the loss of the relationship. But I guess what you're describing is this, what sounds like a very simple process of, I'm just going to name it. You're not doing any work with that. You're not doing any emotional labor with that. And that's really important, because we're not trying to rescue these people. We're not trying to give them an opportunity to explain. We're naming what has happened. We're naming it's unacceptable. And then we're taking the distance.
So it's important to talk about when it comes to friendship breakups. Like, if you're going into the conversation, is it a discussion or a decision?
Yeah.
All you're doing here is communicating the decision. That is over.
Yeah,
Like, and that saves the awkwardness of the 6 months of like, hey, sorry, I'm busy, like making up stupid excuses. Again, why are you doing that? Because it's not on you. But I think go into the conversation firmly as a decision, because as you said, it's not a discussion. It's not there's no negotiation here around that your behavior is acceptable or like how you would like their behavior to improve. If you're staying in the friendship, that's when you work on the friendship. That's when like you say this is what you need to do next time. This is what I need from you. This is what I didn't like in this instance. You don't need to like in this kind of conversation, less is more. Just communicate the ending of the friendship, communicate why, and that's all you need to say.
I think
Agreed.
the ending would be, I'd say to her, like, listen, like, you're clearly fucked up in the head to do that to me. Like, there's clearly, like, some sort of inside issues going on. And obviously the guy is just, like, an absolute dickhead anyway, which, like, is just like
I
any
would
other
say,
guy
though-
in this generation. So thank God that I've actually don't have to be in your premises anymore, because you are bad shit. And I pray for any of your other friends that you have around you is going to be in the promise, like, in the same centre of you, because you are bad news, and I'm so happy that I've had a lucky escape right now.
But you also have to respect the fact that we're all quite outspoken women, and I think we're all not scared of confrontation. The way that question was phrased, if someone is asking the question whether to confront a person or to slowly distance, I'm projecting, but likelihood is they're not a very confrontational person.
Well,
which
copy
is
what
why
I said and then say it.
And I would almost say, like, it's almost like she's internalized some of the words that were used both with the partner, and that's why it's like she's questioning herself.
Yeah.
Because actually, what you just said is also what I would say, is also what you would say, but we've not gone through this period of gaslighting where we've been told all
That's
of these
so
like
true.
abusive comments where she probably doesn't have, and again, I'm 100% projecting, but likelihood is doesn't have a very solid self-esteem right now to go, actually, the way you treated me is absolutely not okay, because she actually has mutual friends who's also whispering in.
And we
I
know
think
what
it's
that
like my
gaslighting.
personal thing is like, if I seen that, like, they like that annoys me that much that girl did that she needs to know that what she did was bad, and if you do it again, you're gonna have no friends, and that's probably why
But
you have no friends.
But you don't know that there isn't, like, from the mention of some of the things about a friendship group, like, I wonder whether there's a friendship group that's almost enabling this kind of behavior.
I think
That's even
so.
more.
And so that's why it's a lot harder to, like, if she was friends with a you or friends with a me, she'd have someone being like, what the fuck? But
Yeah.
if you don't have people reacting, like,
I'll
holy
tell
shit,
them.
that, I mean, like,
Don't.
I literally was like, my heart's just dropped. Like, that's heartbreaking. Like, it was such a guttural reaction. If you don't have that, if you're in a friendship group where this behavior is normalized, where this is your everyday, like, this is why she's questioning whether to whether it's her, whether she should let it go, whether she should just brush it under the carpet, whether she should slowly distance.
And you're so right about the idea of the gaslighting that she's probably been subjected to, because we've all been in that situation where people treat you awfully and they're like, it's just a joke, lighten up.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate
that.
I hate that
Yeah.
when friends go,
Hate that.
when they say something like so rude or like offensive, and they go, well, it's just a joke.
But also, it just doesn't make it a joke. Just because you've labelled it as a joke, it doesn't make it funny.
When
Yeah.
someone goes, oh, it was just a joke. And they say something like, so like they're not like, oh my God, don't even get me started. It pisses me off that much.
Guys, I'm sorry to say it. And I'm very sad because actually I feel like we could have kept this conversation going for so much
Wow.
longer.
Do you want me to
But
close it off?
we're over.
We're
Yeah, our
over.
time is up.
We're over.
Lily, close the pod down for us.
Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode of friendships, breakups, and dilemmas. A big, big thank you to my girl Michelle over here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I had the best time.
And
Thank
read
you
a
so
book.
much.
Where can
Read
you
a
get
book.
your book?
Read
no,
any
read
book.
her book. Read her book.
Bad
sorry.
friend.
Bad
Read a
friend.
book. Read this
Read
book.
a book. But actually, I am a proponent for just reading a book.
Yes, and where can everyone find you?
I'm Michelle L. ELMAN on Instagram and TikTok mainly. And yeah, I'm always hanging out over there.
We'd
A
love to
big
have you
thank
back on
you for
sometime.
I would
Michelle
love
for
that.
coming. You're an absolute G. I
Yay.
absolutely love speaking to you.
Thank
And
you.
a big thank you to Ellie, big thank you to Jack. And
Oh, we have Jack in the studio
yeah,
today.
we have Jack in the studio.
Shout out,
And a
Jack.
big thank you for me. Right, bye guys.
Bye, guys.
See ya.